thrilling Game+Survival+Chengge+True Undead Night, a thriller game has arrived. Yin Cheng, Brother Cheng. Awakening Talent. The temptation of the dead, all ghosts and monsters naturally increase their favorability towards him. Then Yin Cheng discovered his own thriller game. It seems like it's starting to run off course. Supermodel ghost nurse, holding a hanging bottle, begged Yin Cheng to give her intravenous infusion, an elegant and noble Countess of the Blood clan, who does not suck the blood of Yin Cheng. The ever-changing painted skin ghost chased Yin Cheng and asked her to paint a perfect human skin, the ethereal soul in the painting, the ghost bride waiting for you for 1,000 years, the invincible zombie princess suddenly looking back. Yin Cheng has gradually drifted away on the path of the undead night. The introduction is weak, please refer to the main text. Chapter 1. Lucky Players. Temptation of the deceased with special talents. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sky is dark gray, and there are no 1,000 paper cranes outside the window. The dark clouds are like twisted and permeating faces, with strange smiles overlooking the world below. The air emits an abnormal coldness. The crows, in groups of 3 or 2, occasionally emit 3 or 2 chilling cries on the white bone tree. The asphalt road is filled with a faint fishy smell, which is somewhat pungent. In the trash can on one side, you can vaguely see dark red condensation and something that looks like pig intestines hanging on the trash can, swaying gently in the wind. A building with pale walls and a smell of disinfectant stood tall in front of 12 people. At the entrance, the sign of the third hospital made them almost desperate. The third hospital. Isn't it? Isn't it? Why is it the third hospital? No. Let me go back. I need to find my mom. Woo-woo. Damn it, I was selected by the third hospital. I'm just a newcomer. Desperate emotions spread rapidly. 12 people, 8 men and 4 women, each with a different expression, the only similarity being the despair and fear in their eyes. Yin Cheng is no exception. He has just returned home from his 996 routine and even feels a bit tired. A thriller game that brings despair, death, and panic to the world as an unknown special existence. No matter how old or young, no matter when or where. Everyone has a high probability of being pulled into a thriller game, without exception. Ghosts, zombies, vampires, all the terrifying monsters that humans used to only be able to see in movies and novels are living here. A little carelessness can make human life fragile and fleeting like a daisy. To survive, one must follow the rules of the thriller game and complete game tasks in order to have the opportunity to return to the mortal world. At the entrance of the third hospital, a nurse dressed in a nurse's robe, with a curvaceous figure and a charming face, walked out with a cold and numb expression. She held a small notebook in her hand, seemingly checking the number of people on it. At the moment when the 12 people saw the nurse, they all exclaimed in unison, "Wonderful in the world." Of course, if her nurse's robe, which should have been as white as snow, had no dark red marks and was filled with a faint smell of blood, it would have been even more perfect. Even so, she is like a supermodel nurse in a quiet city, exuding a magical charm. Game begins, current dungeon. Third hospital, task details. The third hospital from the thrilling world has a good reputation in the ghost world. Countless ghosts and monsters suffer from various diseases, which are usually effectively treated here. However, recently, there seems to be some problems within the third hospital, leading to an extreme shortage of manpower. They have no choice but to seek help from the outside world. Dear game participants, please cooperate with the reasonable allocation of employee status by the third hospital. After 1 week, you can return to the world without receiving any negative feedback. Friendly reminder. The busy third hospital requires diligent employees. Doing more and seeing less can help improve survival chances. The basic rewards for this round of games will be distributed after the end. The voices from the thrilling game gradually faded in the ears of 12 game participants. However, a voice that only he could listen to rang out in Yin Cheng's mind. Lucky player Yin Cheng, after testing, you have a special talent called Temptation of the Dead, which scares any ghosts in the world. Due to your charm, your initial favorability will be increased to neutral. Favorability will vary depending on the situation. As the only lucky player in this game, congratulations on obtaining one chance to use the extra talent extraction wheel. Do you want to use it now? The voice in his mind first surprised Yin Cheng slightly, and then turned into endless joy. Regardless of what bizarre talent the Temptation of the Dead was, it reminded him of some strange and bizarre things. Just some extra talent drawing roulette is enough to give him a significant survival chance over others. The world of horror has been around for a long time, and people have gradually figured out some of the rules and survival methods of certain games. Some people even use the power they gain in the thrilling world to thrive in this world. Talent is the most unique and rare existence among them. Among 10,000 game participants, having 2 or 3 awakened talents is considered very good. It also depends on the characteristics of talent and whether it is practical. Yin Cheng's Temptation of the Dead can make any ghost see him immediately without generating hostility and maintain a neutral state. If it were to be spread, I'm afraid I would be ranked first on the human talent list on the spot. A world full of ghosts, evil spirits, and various twisted creatures. Humans who emit vitality and energy are naturally disgusted and resentful, and are seen as food-like beings. Just like how humans view pigs, horses, cows, and sheep, there is no difference. This is the truth that countless predecessors who have experienced thriller games have summarized with their blood. Extract additional talents. Yin Cheng dared not hesitate and immediately silently recited in his heart. The next moment, in front of him appeared a massive wheel that looked like a Ferris wheel, as if it were imaginary and only he could see it. The wheel slowly rotates, and countless areas on it emit various kinds of luster, some dim, some bright, and some seem to be able to pull the soul into it. The speed at which the wheel rotates seems to be able to pull Yin Cheng's heart. Make him feel like his heart is about to jump out of his chest in a hurry. Staring intently at the illusory wheel with both eyes, revealing an immense desire. His heart is also constantly praying. Just the roulette can only be seen by Yin Cheng himself. This has led to the emergence of a problem. His gaze was as if he was staring straight at the graceful and mature senior nurse not far in front of him. At the same time, the nurse with a cold expression, Daimei, furrowed slightly. She, who had a slight liking for Yin Cheng in her heart, instantly fell to freezing point. And stepping on his high heels, he approached him step by step. Click. 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 The wheel speed slowed down and made a sound that only Yin Cheng could hear. Perfectly overlapping with the cold high heels of the senior nurse. The eyes that were completely focused and staring at the roulette wheel became even fiercer and fiercer. The pale and bloodless cheeks of the senior nurse became even more cold and stiff. Around Yin Cheng, the other game participants instinctively moved away from his position at this moment. Their strange thoughts in their hearts slightly dispelled the originally fearful atmosphere. Several male participants secretly gave Yin Cheng a thumbs up in their hearts. Talent. Talents. At the entrance of the third hospital, where the mortality rate is as high as 100%, I stared at the imperial sister nurse with that kind of gaze. That nurse is indeed seductive, but no matter what, she is also a deadly ghost. No matter how much you like uniforms, what do you like about them? When do you score points? The guy who has made his intelligence so dizzy is really hopeless. Bury it. Yin Cheng was completely unaware that the crisis was approaching step by step. Because at this moment he is completely filled with joy. On the massive wheel like a Ferris wheel, the pointer accurately landed on an almost imperceptible area. Congratulations to lucky player Yin Cheng for obtaining the only divine talent. Insight Eye of Insight. The terrifying talent of seeing through ghosts and monsters, including humans, and obtaining their information, everything has unique preferences and weaknesses, understand them, and use them. P.S. Ghost Realm. Wandering Soul. Evil Ghost. Fierce Ghost. Red-clothed Fierce Ghost. Blood-clothed Fierce Ghost. Unspeakable. Ferocious God. Chapter 2. Lena, the red-robed ghost with irregular age. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Human, do you seem to be very interested in me? The moist voice of the Imperial sister pulled Yin Cheng back from excitement to reality. In front of him, less than half a meter away, the tall and graceful senior nurse had an incredibly sharp surgical knife in her hand at some point. Between those slender and fair fingers, they rotate incredibly skillfully. Yin Cheng only felt the air around him getting colder and colder. Killing intent. Danger. He, who was sharp, immediately realized what the current situation was. His gaze just now was too hot, to the point where this senior nurse from the 3rd hospital had some very bad misunderstandings. The patience of the senior nurse seems to be not very good. Seeing Yin Cheng still in a daze, he didn't answer his own question. The cold surgical knife gradually lifted and pressed against Yin Cheng's cheek. Facing this situation for the first time, Yin Cheng's forehead was dripping with cold sweat, and his thoughts were clearer than ever before. Eye of Insight. The only divine talent was immediately utilized. In an instant, some data that only he could see appeared in front of Yin Cheng. Nurse from the 3rd hospital. Lena, race. Ghost, friendliness. Full of killing intent, due to your fiery gaze, her original slight favoritism towards you was completely destroyed, strength. Red-robed ghost, no one could have imagined that a small nurse could be a terrifying red-robed ghost. Hobbies. Passionate about researching medical skills, yearning to become a renowned doctor admired by everyone in the thrilling world, hence reverence and respect for highly skilled physicians. Weakness. Her round and slender legs are her proud capital, but they are also her most vulnerable area. Different attack methods can achieve different effects. Current status. It is a special period that only a few female ghosts have, once a year, so I am irritable, not a big problem, but it is obviously impossible to solve with the so-called medical skills of the strange world. The solution is to take Yin Ming spring water and pair it with 10 years of Bien Hua, boil it over low heat until it is warm and sweet, which can solve the current symptoms. Don't hesitate to marvel at the powerful functions of divine-level talents, and there are some strange little tips in the feedback information. Because the surgical knife of the female ghost nurse has already been pressed onto her cheek. The cold touch made his hair stand up. It looks like you're not willing to answer my question, said the nurse's gentle voice, which was very pleasant to the ears of everyone, but appeared cold and piercing. The rest of the players, some have already closed their eyes and do not want to see Yin Cheng's tragic fate in the future. But at this moment, a scene that nobody expected happened. Yin Cheng, equally slender and bold, grabbed the arm that had the surgical knife pressed against his face. Ice cold, delicate and smooth, it will definitely be very comfortable in summer. This is his first reaction. Nurse Yu Jie seemed to be momentarily stunned by Yin Cheng's audacity and didn't directly dismember the human in front of her into pieces. Taking advantage of the moment he had secured, Yin Cheng quickly changed his grip on the other person's hand to a pulse diagnosis gesture similar to that of an old Chinese medicine practitioner. Beautiful lady, no one is not interested in the perfect you, and I am no exception. Speak the first sentence and offer flattery first. He has reason to believe that even female ghosts must also care about their appearance. As expected, upon insight, Lena's friendliness immediately underwent some subtle changes. From a state of intense killing intent to a state of hostility. Although it was just a small change, it was enough to verify Yin Cheng's conjecture. The principle of wearing thousands of clothes and not wearing flattery is really practical enough in any place. If this is your dying wish, then you can go on the road. The senior nurse remained expressionless, with a cold and ghostly aura permeating the air, making everyone extremely frightened. I'm afraid the female ghost will go crazy and implicate them. No, of course it's not just that. As a doctor with professional ethics, what I pay more attention to is your condition, madam. I'm sorry my eyes were a bit hot, which caused some misunderstandings for the lady, but please forgive me. I'm so interested in the diseases exhibited by non-human beings when I first came to the thrilling world. Yin Cheng looked like a medical madman, his eyes pretending to be obsessed as he looked towards the third hospital. I am very fortunate. The first stop in this world is the third hospital. This is simply my dream heaven. Only here can I continue to exert my light and heat as a physician in this world. The words fell. The surgical knife pressed against his cheek did not leave. But Yin Cheng clearly noticed that the gaze of the female ghost Lena had softened slightly. The friendliness has not changed, perhaps because the other party has not fully trusted him. Oh. Are you a doctor? Lena stared fixedly into Yin Cheng's eyes, as if trying to find traces of deception. Of course. He, who has been working in the 996 workplace for years, does not lack acting skills the most. He answered confidently. Do you know what it would be like to deceive me? Lena's voice continued to deepen a few times. I don't know, but I never lie, said Yin Cheng with an honest and kind demeanor. Great. Lena smiled seductively, almost forgetting the fact that she was a female ghost. Since you are a doctor and also mentioned my condition, why not talk about my condition? It's best for you to think carefully before speaking. If you're wrong, then whether you lie or not doesn't matter because the third hospital doesn't need quacks either. Lena's agile tongue brushed over her two sharp little tiger teeth, and behind her smile, there was the most deadly killing intent hidden. Don't worry, I have already confirmed your small flaw through a pulse diagnosis. Yin Cheng was extremely confident and calmly released Lena's cold and smooth wrist. His words changed and he said, but. Beautiful lady, are you sure you want me to say it here? Lena's face instantly underwent some subtle changes. What kind of situation is she, how could she not be clear? Every year during this period, that restless feeling makes her particularly uncomfortable, and she can't find any way to solve it. Those ghost doctors are very skilled in treating major illnesses such as missing arms and legs, changing eyes and hearts, and even changing heads. Is it related to her special situation? Difficulty in speaking is secondary, and ghost doctors have not studied this aspect either. You guys, wait for me at the hospital gate, Lena ordered directly to the other players. Players certainly don't have the courage to walk honestly towards the hospital entrance like Yin Cheng. After a distance, it was confirmed that the players would not easily hear it. Lena just gestured to Yin Cheng with her eyes, it's time to speak. Cough, cough. Yin Cheng cleared his throat and solemnly uttered a sentence, irregular menstruation, to be precise, should be called, irregular menstrual cycle. On Lena's fair and bloodless face, a rare fleeting blush appeared. She was not surprised by Yin Cheng's precise judgment, but quickly asked, do you know how to treat it? Unconsciously, Lena's tone was no longer so cold. Like the information obtained by the eye of insight, she is a nurse who upholds medical skills and respects the pursuit of physicians. Yin Cheng smiled inwardly, and in his gaze, Lena's friendliness had shifted from hostility to neutrality. After gradually grasping Lena's code of conduct, he did not choose to release the answer as soon as possible. Based on the summary of players who have returned to reality from thriller games. Ghosts and monsters are not completely irrational beings who only know about indiscriminate killing. Under certain conditions, humans can also trade with ghosts and monsters to obtain special rewards beyond game tasks. He saw such an opportunity from Lena. Chapter 3. Madam, you don't want to. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Physician. Looking at Yin Cheng, who was somewhat distracted, Lena's tender fingers lightly tapped his chest. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. Yin Cheng regained his senses and cursed himself for being careless, daring to lose his mind in front of the red-robed ghost. After strengthening his vigilance, he spoke again, "Beautiful lady, your illness is not really a big problem. I have a way to treat it." "Really?" Lena's tone became noticeably surprised and excited. The special period that troubles her for a period of time every year, although not a big problem, is enough to make her feel bored. Now that she heard that there was a solution, she couldn't suppress her inner joy. Even the gaze at Yin Cheng became increasingly friendly. "Madam, treating your illness is not difficult for me, but as a qualified nurse, you should be able to understand the truth that a doctor cannot treat people for free, right?" Yin Cheng's face showed a difficult expression, with a very conflicted expression. "Especially for someone like me, if I want to completely solve your problem, I will inevitably tell you valuable prescriptions. Physicians are not easy, the only valuable thing is the knowledge in their minds. I think you should be able to understand that I am. Madam, you don't want to see a doctor like me lose the opportunity to explore higher-level medical skills due to poverty and life-threatening situations, do you?" At the end, Yin Cheng's eyes were full of light. "Although I just wanted to charge, I became righteous and resolute." With the insight of observing information, he has already experienced the beauty brought by the information gap. When did Lena meet such eloquent humans? She was more exposed to dead people who were dismembered into pieces or made into specimens. With a simple mind, she immediately nodded and said, "You make sense. The doctors in the third hospital charge very high fees for their treatment. As long as you can ensure the cure of my illness, I can give you some equivalent things as compensation. You deserve to be an excellent nurse. I knew you could definitely understand me." After quietly giving a flattery, Yin Cheng directly informed Lena of the solution analyzed by Insight Eye. Show a posture of trust in the other person. The effect is also immediate. Lena, who originally respected doctors, transformed her friendliness from neutrality to friendliness. Being able to achieve such a level of proficiency without Lena verifying the effectiveness of Yin Cheng's method is a testament to the ingenious effect of her oral skills. "Here you are, this is my reward." Lena took out a special card from the nurse's pocket, with a small buckle on top, and handed it to Yin Cheng. "Take it up and look, there are 4 big characters written on it. Specially hired physician." Also, due to certain rules, Yin Cheng's profile picture and name were displayed on the card. Is this hiding identity? According to the information provided by players returning to the mortal world, hiding identity seems to be able to trigger something beyond missions, perhaps hidden missions, or special hidden ghosts and monsters, and so on. Yin Cheng frowned slightly, calculating in his heart the risks and benefits that hiding his identity may bring to him. However, judging from Lena's friendly state, the identity of a specially hired physician should not be harmful. Of course, provided that he truly possesses exquisite medical skills, otherwise, suicide should be the best choice. With his divine talent of insight, Yin Cheng doesn't have to worry about this issue. Confidently pinned the identity card of the hired physician onto his clothes. Yin Cheng glanced at the gloomy third hospital, took a deep breath, and followed Lena inside. The smell of disinfectant is very strong, mixed with some strange smells, making people want to cover their mouth and nose. Within the hospital, the registration window has formed a long queue. The various forms of ghosts, under the gaze of several tiger-headed individuals and particularly sturdy security guards, were particularly obedient to order. There hasn't even been a situation of cutting in line. Logistics room. Lena's cold gaze swept over everyone, only to fall on Yin Cheng, which would appear slightly softer. As an external employee, you do not have sufficient work experience, so you can only engage in basic work within the third hospital. Next, I will assign you the status. You 3, go to the morgue to report. The hospital is currently short of movers, so this task will be entrusted to you. The 3 men pointed at suddenly turned pale and lost their blood. No one expected that the first job assigned would be to go to the morgue of the third hospital and work as a corpse mover. The terrifying world of ghosts and monsters can be imagined with one's buttocks, and such a place must be extremely dangerous. Despite this, their hearts were filled with despair, and the three men did not show any signs of resistance. The era of thriller games. Everyone has a certain understanding of this, so naturally they will not make some basic mistakes. For example, in situations where there is no ability, disobey the task arrangement of ghosts and monsters. You four, just take on the temporary care, mainly responsible for the first ward. Lena pointed to the four female players and said. Upon hearing that they had not been assigned to any strange place, the four women breathed a sigh of relief. But they didn't feel happy either. The third hospital, with a mortality rate of up to 100%, is like a dark cloud enveloping them. The rest of the people are responsible for cleaning the hospital. As a well-known hospital, the hygiene conditions are naturally demanding. In just a few words, Lena assigned everyone's identities. Then she took out the corresponding uniform from the cabinet in the logistics room and threw it in front of everyone. At the same time, he also threw them a temporary worker manual from the third hospital. Only when facing Yin Cheng. Lena handed over the brand new white coat to the other person with her own hands, and also included a stethoscope that Yin Cheng couldn't use at all. Thank you very much. Yin Cheng smiled back and solemnly took the white coat, putting it on meticulously. And pinned the ID card on the chest of the white coat. Such a simple scene. But it left the players present completely stunned. I don't know what Yin Cheng said to that incredibly beautiful female ghost, but the difference in treatment he received is so huge. Their eyes showed visible envy and jealousy. Among several male players, there is a guy who is beautiful and has a somewhat Kunken style. I looked at Yin Cheng's handsome yet masculine face. I looked at the female ghost nurse who was extremely moist and had a queen-like demeanor. Then he touched his fair and beautiful little dog face. Thinking about it again, Yin Cheng used the excuse of discussing his condition to persuade the imperial nurse to intervene and dissuade them. In an instant, a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind. The truth, is that so? The restless thoughts suddenly became uncontrollable. Especially considering that he is about to enter such a dangerous place to work in the morgue. The man of Kunken Wind finally couldn't hold back and weakly raised his hand. The weak voice of the little dog followed, that. Lena frowned and looked at the other person. She, who was already a bit restless due to being out of sync with her age, spoke coldly, you'd better say something constructive, otherwise. A completely indifferent attitude and a completely different attitude towards Yin Cheng. On the contrary, it made the Kunkenfang man more certain of his speculation in his heart. At first, when the imperial sister nurse treated Yin Cheng, wasn't she also showing the same murderous intent? Chapter 4. Kunken is by my side. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Kunkenfang man looked around and pretended to be shy, saying, beautiful lady, are you sure you want to say it in front of so many people? Lena. What? Everyone. Yin Cheng. Oh. Good guy. You're really a good guy. Don't look, don't know, I'm scared at first sight. At first, the actions of the Kunken Wind man surprised Yin Cheng, thinking that the other party really had some skills to show. Result: the intelligence obtained at the moment is as follows. Ordinary man. Kai Xiaokuan, race. Human race, friendliness. Friendly, although he may be a bit jealous of you, for some reason, he still seems to have a good impression of you, strength. Weak chicken, a cat may even be better at fighting than him, favorite. Male, offensive and defensive, he ultimately chose defense, weakness. Of course, weak chickens are all weak spots. Current status. Although he doesn't like women, judging from Lena's preferential treatment towards you, he seems to think that Lady Ligue Lena has a unique tendency, which is why she takes extra care of you. Therefore, for his own life's safety, he has decided to sacrifice his beauty. Dead, prepare for the aftermath. Yin Cheng silently took a few steps away from Kai Xiaoquan, sweating profusely in his heart. Are male homosexuals by my side? Red-clad ghost Lena slowly walked forward, her slender jade hands twisting the sharp surgical knife. A charming smile appeared on the excessively fair face. Although she didn't know what Kunkenfang Man was planning to say, Lena could sense the strangeness in the other person's gaze. The next moment. Schwa. Schwa. The surgical knife was in Lena's hand, as if she had taken life, accurately cutting through the skin and flesh of Kai Xiaoquan. The moment when the surgical knife, which was not stained with any blood, was retracted. With a snap. Moribai's skeleton remains in place. Meat chunks with almost identical proportions in size are scattered all over the ground. Blood and water shot out in an instant, splashing onto the players with a warm feeling. And the head of the person who fell to the ground and rolled twice, with a completely stiff expression on its face. His gaze was right on a female player. Ah! The female player finally couldn't help but scream in terror. However. Schwa. The surgical knife flashed with a cold light. Half of the tongue fell to the ground on the spot, still wriggling slightly. The hospital prohibits loud noise, Lena said coldly. Woo-woo. Woo-woo. The screaming female player covered her mouth on the spot, blood overflowing wildly from her mouth, and the intense pain made her fall to the ground in agony, constantly convulsing. Something that happened in a short moment. Let everyone present feel a chilling chill in their hearts, with their hair on end. This is the cruelty of thriller games, where a fresh life is brutally dismembered in front of us. Fear seeps into the bone marrow, but they can't do anything. Even Yin Cheng, blessed with dual talents, is deeply aware of his vulnerability. My vigilance towards ghosts and monsters has risen to an unprecedented level. Lena gave him the opportunity to speak up, which enabled him to turn the situation around and maximize the power of the Eye of Insight. But what if some ghosts don't even give you a chance? My mind is becoming clearer than ever at this moment. The identity of a specially appointed physician is not entirely capable of ensuring my own safety. If I encounter an unreasonable ghost who insists on killing me, I have no ability to resist now. Not all ghosts and monsters will abide by the hospital's rules, I cannot gamble my safety on this. Think of a way. I must come up with a way to ensure my own safety. Yin Cheng's thoughts were like lightning, thinking rapidly about how to increase his chances of survival to almost perfect levels. As for sympathizing with other players. Help other players. Sorry. In the world of thriller games, sympathy and pity are particularly luxurious things. Even many players died as a result. Unless he has absolute strength, Yin Cheng will not consider these at all. Suddenly, Yin Cheng's gaze fell once again on his elder sister Nurse Lena. His heart immediately became clear. Borrow strength. Isn't Lena, the red-clad ghost in front of me, the best choice? Change into employee uniforms, carefully read the temporary worker's manual, you still have the last 20 minutes. Lena elegantly put away the surgical knife and then her gaze fell on Yin Cheng, you, come with me. Yin Cheng immediately followed and left the logistics room under the jealous gaze of a group of players. In a separate consultation room. Yin Cheng sat on the office chair, looking slightly relaxed. Along the way, Lena has already talked about what he should do. Then Lena hurriedly grabbed the medicine and went, clearly troubled by the problem of irregular menstrual cycle. From Lena's mouth, Yin Cheng also knew. As a specially hired physician, his work may not be so busy, and may even be quite leisurely. It's not that there are fewer patients in hospitals, mainly because Yin Cheng is a human. And his identity as a specially hired physician has made those ghosts and monsters distrust him. This also allowed him to enjoy himself and have enough time to think about why the third hospital has not had a survivor so far. Just when Lena went to fetch medicine and had no time to attend to Yin Cheng for the time being. At the entrance of the third hospital. An elegant figure descended from a dark cloud. Slowly walked into the gate of the third hospital. Hiss. That one is here again. Count Rose, has her problem not been solved yet? It seems that the third hospital is going to lose another physician again. Shoo. What nonsense. You don't want to live anymore, do you? A group of pig-headed monsters, zombies, and so on who were queuing up to get their numbers looked at the elegant figure with awe in their eyes. She walked calmly, her seductive figure exuding charming charm. But let those ugly ghosts stay away. Count of Roses. Celebrities from the third hospital. Every once in a while, I come here to see a doctor. No one knows what exactly went wrong with her. They only know that every time the Earl of Rose comes, there is still no doctor who can see her alive and appear in front of them. Unfortunately, the third hospital has nothing to do with her. This also leads to the arrival of the Count of Roses, who makes doctors tremble with fear. The third hospital will fall into a brief state of paralysis. No doctor is willing to treat this hot and deadly yam. In the hospital conference room. Dozens of doctors who had suddenly received news and hid here, each with an ugly expression resembling constipation. Damn it. What's wrong with her? Why does she run here every once in a while? A werewolf doctor was a bit manic, with intense unease in his pupils. A green alchemist with scars all over his body couldn't help but say, my master, Dr. Mondo, died at the hands of Count Rose. I don't want to follow in the footsteps of his master. Director, where did the dean go? If we continue to tinker like this, the third hospital will sooner or later be destroyed by Count Rose. That's right. If this continues, big problems will eventually arise. A hospital without doctors will become a joke if it spreads. The other doctors also agreed with dissatisfaction. With his hands crossed and leaning against his desk, the handsome and seemingly ordinary director gently raised his hand to signal the ghosts not to make a fuss. After quieting down in the conference room, the director pushed the black-framed glasses on his nose bridge and smiled, saying, isn't there some newcomers in the hospital? One of them seems to have some skills and has been recognized by Lena as a special physician. Speaking of which, the director's lips curved into a sinister smile, since that's the case, Count Rose might as well leave it to him for treatment. Chapter 5. The Causes and Risks of Count Rose. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Consultation Room. Yin Cheng controlled the heat and personally prepared medicine for the imperial sister nurse Lena. I still muttered in my heart that it is truly a hospital set up by ghosts, and there are almost all kinds of strange things in the consultation room, including gas stoves. With the insight of the eye, it is not difficult to operate a simple task like boiling medicine. Further winning Lena's favor is the only way that Yin Cheng can think of borrowing strength at the moment. The strength of the red-robed ghost is also quite impressive in the world of horror. While decocting medicine, Yin Cheng's remaining light swept to one side. Queen Ghost Lena sat casually on the desk in the consultation room, her round and slender legs wrapped in blood-stained white silk, swaying gently. It looks full of strange charm. How could Lena, as a ghost-level powerhouse in red clothes, not notice Yin Cheng's gaze? However, she didn't care and instead felt a little happy in her heart. Someone who is willing to appreciate can prove their charm, right? Lena faces a group of ghosts with no aesthetic concepts all day long, as well as those ghost doctors who don't know what to study. It is rare to have a doctor who is proficient in medical skills and can appreciate one's charm. It is inevitable that she will feel a bit proud in her heart. Of course, if Yin Cheng's prescription is ineffective after taking it, it's another matter. Lena's surgical knife will cut him into pieces as soon as possible. The medicine is ready, beautiful Ms. Lena. Yin Cheng handed the prepared medicine to Lena. The other party took it over, regardless of whether it was hot or not, and not afraid of whether Yin Cheng had done anything, eagerly swallowed it. The next moment, Lena only felt her ghostly body, which had always been cold and without temperature, with a slight warm current emanating from her lower abdomen. Make her feel like she's in a hot spring, experiencing unprecedented comfort. The restlessness caused by irregular menstrual cycles also dissipates. The medicine can cure the illness, and the effect is surprisingly good. Yin Cheng, your prescription's effect is really amazing. It's amazing. The problem that troubled Lena for countless years was instantly cured by Yin Cheng's simple prescription. Let this female ghost, the imperial sister, immediately jump up with excitement and give Yin Cheng a true and full hug. The full figure and the oppressive feeling brought by the towering hills are amazing. A sudden embrace. The strange touch of ice and coolness, as well as the oppressive feeling brought by the hills. While Yin Cheng was slightly down, his heart felt as if there was a kitten tickling and active. Watching Lena's friendliness transform into friendliness, some inexplicable thoughts sprouted in his heart. If the friendliness continues to improve, shouldn't Lena? The female ghost with natural air conditioning seems pretty good too. Such a thought came out of his life, and Yin Cheng quickly woke up. The undead knight or something, that's not worth it. Can Koiner, as a human, withstand such stimulation? At the same time. In the hospital corridor. The Count of Roses walked gracefully through it. Every ghost that saw her instinctively pressed against both sides of the wall, afraid to take a breath. It wasn't until she left that she gathered with the other monsters and began to mutter with strange eyes. Dong! Dong! The crisp knocking on the door interrupted the deteriorating atmosphere in the consultation room. Yin Cheng reluctantly pushed Lena away from her embrace. Lena walked to the side with a smile, like his assistant, eagerly anticipating. Please come in. The Earl of the Rose entered in response. A man and a woman ghost looked at the Count Rose with a completely different expression. Yin Cheng was only slightly surprised, not expecting to receive a patient so soon. At the same time, I was also amazed that the charm of the woman, ghost, in front of me was no less than that of Lena, and she also exuded an elegant and noble aura that was different from Lena's cold temperament. Especially with that broad mind, it was almost the same as Lena's. A red crystal necklace falls deeply into the mountains and valleys, making people imagine endlessly. His straight and slender legs were wrapped in black tears, and he even poked Yin Cheng's XP. White tear is cute, black tear is exciting, if you want to tear meat, you have to stir-fry green peppers bah. Putting aside the mixed thoughts in his mind, Yin Cheng's face showed a professional smile and said, Madam, are you here to see a doctor? I heard from your director that a human physician has arrived at the third hospital, so I came to take a look. Count Rose gracefully sat down, with a delicate and perfect face, as if carrying an innate sense of luxury. But at this moment, Yin Cheng. Lena, the nurse who was originally standing quietly behind him, eagerly grabbed his arm, which he was about to diagnose the pulse and poke out. What's wrong? Yin Cheng realized that there might be something wrong with the situation and turned around to ask. Lena shook her head at him and then looked at the Earl of Rose, saying in a low voice, Ms. Rose, please find another doctor to treat you. He is just a specially hired doctor with limited medical skills and cannot help you. From Lena's tone, Yin Cheng could sense a hint of danger. Due to Lena's concern, there was a slight stir in her heart. He immediately used his insight to observe the elegant and charming Count of Roses in front of him. Blood Count. Rose, race. Blood clan, friendliness. Enemy, her mood is very bad, and the temptation of the dead cannot make her like you, strength. Blood-clothed demon, terror existence above red clothes, favorite. Fresh blood, loved by blood clan members, none of them, maintaining noble elegance, weakness. Fresh blood, liking can also be a fatal weakness, which is best reflected in the blood race, current status. Anorexia is constantly tormenting her. She has visited one hospital after another and one physician after another, but has not been able to achieve any results. In order to maintain her self-proclaimed perfect noble reputation and hide her own secrets, she has killed one physician after another. As you have the talent for temptation to the dead, your blood may have enough deadly temptation for her. Please be careful when acting. Hiss. The feedback from inside I made Yin Cheng take a deep breath at that time. As his scalp tingled, he felt his hair stand up one by one. The talent of temptation of the dead actually gives his blood, and the blood race in front of him has deadly temptation. What else is special about you, a blood race? What kind of ghost are you when you suffer from anorexia? Yin Cheng is really a bit numb. The illness of the Count of Roses is simple to say, but difficult to say. It is as difficult as heaven. The true food of the blood clan is naturally fresh blood. There is no doubt about the pain of suffering from anorexia. The key issue is: the Earl of the Rose is a terrifying presence at the level of a blood-clad ghost, one rank higher than Lena. Once faced with difficulties, even if Lena has a heart to protect him, it is still a surplus but a lack of strength. What to do? What to do? If you don't treat it, you will definitely die. Treating it, the Earl of the Rose seems to have experienced a long period of anorexia, which is why he appears elegant, but in reality, he is in a state of killing intent towards everyone. If you knew the secret of my blood, wouldn't you have sucked it dry on the spot? Yin Cheng was anxious in his heart, with a big danger on his forehead. Chapter 6. Lena's Trust in the Scarlet Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Little girl, you are just a nurse. How can you be sure that this doctor must not be able to treat my illness well? The voice of the Earl of Roses was like a jade bead falling to the ground, crisp yet somewhat sweet, with an elegant and noble smile on the corner of his mouth. But those crimson eyes fell on Lena's body. The invisible pressure made Lena's already colorless face, like a white jade, seem even paler. Blood clothes and red clothes. A word difference, a world difference. However, Lena still did not give in, even under immense pressure, tightly gripping Yin Cheng's arm. The touch felt cold, but it gave Yin Cheng a warm feeling in his heart. In the world of thriller games, humanity has long been unable to withstand trust and testing. It is particularly difficult for a horror world monster that has just established a friendly relationship to achieve this level for him. While feeling a little warm in his heart, Yin Cheng's previously restless thoughts instantly calmed down. He lightly placed his other hand on Lena's jade hand, and gently grasped it. A slight movement made Lena's gaze fall on Yin Cheng's face. I saw him smile gently, with a confident expression that seemed to make Lena understand something. Her delicate face flashed with a hint of redness, and Lena withdrew her jade hand without a trace, standing quietly on the side once again. Interesting. Count Rose's beautiful eyes flickered and he looked at each person and ghost with great interest. The advent of thriller games has brought humanity into a thrilling world, which is no longer a new thing. Just like Yin Cheng, he seems to have developed a friendship with ghosts and monsters in the thrilling world as a human. She's seen it for the first time. In the impression of Count Rose, humans are weak, have a natural fear of ghosts and monsters, an enemy. Because the vast majority of ghosts and monsters consider humans to exist like food. It is common for people to be hostile towards each other and develop fear. At the worst, it's also a matter of keeping a respectful distance. Only someone like Yin Cheng seems to be able to make friends with ghosts and gain trust. It is true that he is independent. Human, are you not afraid of me? Out of curiosity and interest, Count Rose temporarily put aside the matter of seeking medical treatment and kept scrutinizing Yin Cheng. As if trying to see through him. I'm afraid, Yin Cheng responded with unprecedented clarity and sincerity. Oh. But I didn't see any fear in your eyes. That's because I know that a qualified nobleman will always maintain his elegance and nobility, even in a state of anger, they will still maintain their perfect demeanor, and besides. I have to diagnose you, don't I? With insight, Yin Cheng was able to easily achieve the goal of talking to people and ghosts. Although there is suspicion of flattery, what is flattery for the sake of survival? Upon hearing this, the Count of Roses immediately showed a seductive smile on his face and said, "Little one, you speak so well. I'm starting to like you. It's my luck to be appreciated by an elegant aristocratic lady," Yin Cheng sincerely flattered. "Alright, let's get to the point." The Count of Roses smiled brightly 1 second before returning to his cold and aloof demeanor the next, his face changing speed comparable to flipping through a book. Classic skills of the nobility. "Although I really like your sweet mouth, little one, if you can't take good care of my illness." The Count of Roses' eerie gaze emitted a faint hint of danger. Without saying anything, Yin Cheng has already felt the threat of death. "Although I feel a bit unhappy in my heart, there's nothing I can do. This is the world of horror. The pride and edges of humanity have long been smoothed out here. Survival is the only criterion. If we talk about other things, perhaps I am powerless, but if we talk about medical skills." Yin Cheng's face showed absolute confidence. "Although I am only a specially hired physician, I can say without exaggeration that no one in the entire third hospital can surpass me in medical skills." With this statement, Lena's eyes on one side shone even brighter. The Count of Roses looked at him with a somewhat elusive expression in his eyes. "Confidence is a good thing, but overconfidence may not be enough. You should understand this truth, little one. Sorry, if I were to be honest, I would be seen as arrogant and domineering. Then I just want to say that the doctors at the third hospital are all trash in front of me." At this moment, Yin Cheng displayed a completely different arrogance from his previous caution. What he needs to do at this moment is to completely establish his identity as a skilled doctor. "By the way, with the help of Earl Rose's terrorist strength, I can keep myself as stable as Mount Tai in the third hospital and never worry about my life again." "Great. I like your confidence." Count Rose did not show any dissatisfaction with Yin Cheng's arrogance, but instead smiled again. "Let's start. I hope your confidence really matches your medical skills. Please extend your hand." Yin Cheng had no intention of continuing and intended to explain the problem through action. It's a bit outrageous to pretend and see through someone else's illness at a glance. Traditional Chinese medicine. The Earl of Rose clearly had some knowledge. He took off his long-sleeved leather gloves and handed his exquisite and perfect jade hand to Yin Cheng. Yin Cheng didn't hesitate to put his 2 fingers up. Although I didn't exert too much force, the sensation was equally wonderful. Her skin is like condensed fat, with a faint warmth that Lena does not possess. What about the pulse? Oh, I don't know at first touch, but substituting himself as a divine doctor is too much. Yin Cheng almost forgot that he doesn't even know medical skills at all. With a restrained mind, Yin Cheng withdrew his hand and deliberately frowned. Upon seeing this, the Earl of Rose looked with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. She really wanted to know about the humans in front of her that she was quite pleased with. Is it really possible to detect one's own condition through pulse diagnosis? "Madam, I have understood your illness. I believe you must have been tormented by this disease for a long time, right? Did you really diagnose my illness?" The light in Count Rose's eyes gradually brightened, and Yin Cheng could clearly read the urgent emotion from it. "Anorexia, right?" Yin Cheng calmly stated the other person's crux. Just as Yin Cheng spoke up, the terrifying killing intent enveloped the entire consultation room. The blood-colored light completely enveloped the entire room. The Count of Roses still sat in place. The domain power that only belongs to the level of blood-clothed demons can be controlled, instantly covering the consultation room. Stepping into it under the blood clothes, there is death but no life. Chapter 7. Stop. Stop it. If I smoke again, I will. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A sudden shock. Still within Yin Cheng's expectations. According to the information obtained by Insight, the Earl of the Rose cares very much about the reputation of his nobility. Anorexia is of great significance to a blood member. Once it spreads and is known by other blood clans, she may immediately become a joke for the entire blood clan, or the kind nailed to the pillar of shame. After all, the blood clan no longer likes to drink blood, can it be difficult to switch to drinking pure milk? However, Yin Cheng is actually very clear. Count Rose doesn't necessarily dislike drinking blood, just like in her preference column, blood is still her favorite. More likely, it is because her level of pickiness towards the quality of fresh blood has reached an unparalleled level. Only then did it lead to the occurrence of anorexia. I'm starting to dislike you a bit, little one. It's impolite to casually reveal a nobleman's secret. In the eerie eyes of the Count of Roses, there was a hint of murderous intent emanating. Blood-colored threads, like living creatures, spread out from behind her, gently touching Yin Cheng's cheek. While feeling a bit itchy, it also made him feel death so close. Behind Yin Cheng, Lena is struggling to move forward. The nurse uniform that perfectly accentuated her graceful figure completely turned into a crimson hue. The surgical knife clanged gently, and behind Lena, there was a pair of grey wings quietly unfolding. Her eyes were also gradually turning into a cold and indifferent greyish white. The Count of Roses frowned slightly as he looked at Lena's grey wings behind her, his eyes slightly surprised. Little female ghost, I advise you not to act rashly. Although the big guy behind you may cause me trouble, it has not yet reached the level of complete fear for me. Let him go. Lena's tone was icy cold, resisting immense pressure but still not giving up. Why? The Earl of Rose's gaze became increasingly puzzled. She can understand that a ghost protects humans for various reasons. But I can't understand how Lena can achieve such a level for a human. Because he has cured the illness that has been bothering me for a long time, and also because he is a very good doctor, Lena responded coldly, with a confused thought in her heart, and she felt embarrassed to say it. After all, let a female ghost speak with her own mouth. Because Yin Cheng is her friend. It feels like it's full of complex and profound meanings. Yin Cheng's consultation room is not far away, in another consultation room. The director of the third hospital and other medical colleagues gathered together. Their faces were filled with hopeful yet tense expressions. The expectation is that Count Rose, after killing the human physician, should leave quickly. Nervousness is about worrying about the Earl of Roses, who may become completely angry due to another unsuccessful medical treatment, which may implicate them. The breath of humanity in Lena has disappeared, probably shrouded in the red realm of the Count of Roses. Suddenly, the director spoke in a low tone, and the expressions on the faces of the other doctors also became solemn. That kid is dead. What can a furry kid do with a problem that even our third hospital cannot solve, said the werewolf doctor disdainfully. I just hope that Count Rose can calm his anger and not trouble us after killing that kid, the doctor, wearing a bird's beak mask and emitting a gloomy aura, prayed. It's hard to say. The alchemist said in a muffled voice, how many times has Count Rose come to our hospital? Her problem has never been solved, and we dare not even inquire about her illness. The doctors we know of have all died, and if we cannot receive treatment for a long time, no one can guarantee the existence of a blood-clad person. What will happen after going crazy? Wait. The director, wearing glasses, with a hazy luster emanating from the pupils behind the lenses, said a word and then remained silent. The consultation room also instantly quieted down. Inside the corridor, various ghosts and monsters kept a certain distance from Yin Cheng's consultation room, but eagerly looking forward, as if also waiting for the final result. The disease of Count Rose has been circulating for a long time in the third hospital, and no physician has been able to cure it to this day. Naturally, it has become a major topic of discussion among ghosts and monsters. There are even bold ghosts and monsters who secretly lure other ghosts and monsters to place bets, earning a lot of money. Many ghosts and monsters are also speculating about what strange illness the Earl of Rose has contracted. So much so that even after such a long time has passed, it has not been resolved. Some people with ulterior motives, such as the unscrupulous best friend of the Earl of Rose, are crazily secretly collecting information about the Earl's diagnosis and treatment. Lena, believe me, I didn't say I couldn't cure Count Rose, did I? In the bloody realm, Yin Cheng extended a somewhat stiff hand and grabbed Lena. The icy cold aura on the other person's body was even stronger than before, making him shiver uncontrollably, and a layer of frost and dew condensed on his palms. Once this statement is made, the extremely stiff situation in the diagnosis and treatment room instantly eased a lot. A hint of surprise flashed in Count Rose's eerie eyes, as the other person's overconfidence made her doubt the credibility of the humans in front of her. But in her heart, she urgently hopes that her anorexia can be resolved. Can you really treat my illness? Of course. I won't joke about my own life and death. Life only comes once, and I don't want to waste it like this. Yin Cheng's confident tone slightly lowered the suspicion in Count Rose's heart. Let's talk about it. The Earl of Rose calmed down, and the blood that was licking Yin Cheng's cheek also narrowed down. It's very simple. Yin Cheng turned his head and smiled slightly at Lena. Can I borrow your surgical knife? Lena nodded despite some confusion. Taking the surgical knife, Yin Cheng stared at his fingers with some bitterness and sighed inwardly. In ancient times, Buddha cut meat to feed eagles, but now he cuts his fingers to feed the blood race. What else can I do for my own life? Schwa. The sharpness of the surgical knife far exceeded Yin Cheng's imagination. With just a gentle stroke, the blood from the index finger flowed out instantly. A fragrance that humans cannot smell, but for ghosts and monsters, it is full of temptation and instantly spreads out. The Earl of Rose's gaze suddenly became straight. Not only her, but even Lena, who is not of the blood race, had a faint desire sprouting in her heart. Bark. When blood is about to drip down the finger onto the table. A scene that surprised Yin Cheng and Lena appeared. He had thought about his own blood, which had a great attraction to the Count of Roses. But I didn't expect this attraction to be even greater. It's simply Nima's outrageous. Everywhere is filled with elegance, even in the midst of slaughter, the elegant Count of the Rose. Surprisingly, like a child sucking on a bottle, he pulled his finger over and put it in his mouth to suck. The Count Rose's fair cheeks were unusually rosy. At this moment, Yin Cheng has an indescribable feeling. The temperature of the fingertips, the eloquent tongue of the Count of Roses, and the innate ability of the blood clan to numb prey. It made him feel an unprecedented experience, as if he was drifting away like a fairy. So much so that he ignored the fact that his body was gradually weakening, as if he was extremely tired and almost unable to open his eyes. His face quickly turned pale, just like Lena's. Yin Cheng. Lena regained her senses and exclaimed in surprise, only then did she awaken Yin Cheng, who had fallen into it. Sleeping slot. His voice became hoarse and weak. Stop. Stop it. If you continue to suck, I'll have to hiccup. Yin Cheng tried hard to pull out his finger. But how can he defeat a blood earl at the level of blood clothing, even if he is just a human? Even Lena joined the ranks of pulling carrots and was completely helpless. Yin Cheng only felt that the word danger on his forehead was rapidly shifting towards the word death. In an instant, a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind, giving him a sudden inspiration. With all his might in a hoarse voice, he shouted, "Madam, you don't want to have this meal, do you?" With these words spoken, the greedy gaze of the Count of Roses finally regained some clarity. Chapter 8. The Angel of Death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. His face was as pale as paper, and his body was like a ghost, without even the strength to bounce. Unfortunately, the fingers held in the mouth of Count Rose still conveyed a very pleasant feeling to Yin Cheng. It's very eerie. It also made his emotions incredibly complex. I want to pull my finger back, but I also feel a bit reluctant and conflicted. It's really frustrating. Fortunately, Count Rose was awakened by Yin Cheng's words and did not continue to suck his blood. Just holding his fingers, as if savoring the delicious food he had just tasted. On the face emitting exquisite charm, the redness gradually faded away. The Count of Roses reluctantly released his finger from his mouth. The allure that quietly emerged made even the extremely weak Yin Cheng slightly bow up. He is not Lu Xiaohui, let alone an incompetent person. If faced with such a posture as the Count of Roses, he would have no respect at all. Then Yin Cheng probably needs to consider whether he has a big problem like the dead Kunkenfang man. Little one, I really like you more and more. Come with me back to the castle, I promise to keep you fat and white. Count Rose's crimson and eerie gaze made Yin Cheng shiver with fear. Are you joking, being taken back to the Blood Clan castle and raised? Acting as a humanoid blood bank. Madam, is this your attitude towards doctors who can treat your illness? Yin Cheng's face darkened a bit as he thought of the tragic outcome. Count Rose, you're going too far. Lena's eyes also lit up with anger. She does not allow her respected physician to receive such treatment. In an instant, her wings spread to the extreme behind her, and her body was lifted into mid-air by an invisible force. In the realm of blood, a particularly special force emanated from Lena's body. Where the ripples of that force ripple through. Tables, chairs, paper and pens are rotting at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the blood color in the field seems to be fading at an extremely slow speed. This. Yin Cheng was extremely shocked. He didn't expect that Lena, as a ghost at the level of red clothes, could affect the territory of the Count of Roses. Even in the human world, it is well known that every level of difference between ghosts and monsters is like a trench in heaven. Lena was able to achieve such a level, and there was only one answer. She is a special ghost, the kind with two levels of identity. Exterior and interior. After the advent of thriller games, humans have not achieved nothing. Some veteran players have gradually discovered a lot of information about the thrilling world. Special ghosts and monsters are one of them. One body dual soul, or possessing dual identities of exterior and interior, even appearing as a dead object in daily life, can transform into the existence of terrifying ghosts and monsters. They are all a type of special ghosts and monsters. Undoubtedly, special ghosts and monsters are extremely rare in the thrilling world. They are either extremely powerful or possess certain rare abilities. Lena, it seems to be a special ghost with rare abilities. It seems that the eye of insight is not omnipotent. At least I cannot penetrate Lena's identity as the Prime Minister. Yin Cheng was deeply alert and had a new understanding of the danger level of the thrilling world. Of course, he was even more skeptical that the reason he couldn't see through Lena's inner identity was due to his weak strength. The eye of insight is the only divine talent. In theory, it's definitely not that simple. Putting aside his complex thoughts, Yin Cheng tried to use his insight again when he looked at Lena. The next moment. The feedback information has undergone some changes from what was initially seen. Nurse from the 3rd hospital. Lena, race, inner sage. Angel of death, a rare and extremely special ghost with the terrifying power to bring death and withering to the world, friendliness. Trust, being able to gain the trust of ghosts is a precious thing, please cherish it, strength. Quasi-blood clothes, extremely unstable state, overly powerful power, often not easily controllable, especially when the realm is insufficient, hobbies. Learning medical skills, eager to become a master of medical skills like Dr. Yin Cheng, a transformation caused by someone, weakness. Legs, wings symbolizing death, may also bring death to oneself. Current state. Anger, she cannot see the doctor she admires suffering and sits idly by, perhaps there are other factors. The first time you see the information. Yin Cheng did not marvel at the strength of Lena's identity, but truly felt Lena's concern for himself. She, dressed in a fierce red ghost, still cannot control the power of the Angel of Death. But she was able to use the power that could cause harm to herself to fight against the Count of Roses for his sake. Do it knowing it is impossible, and fight it knowing it is invincible. Sometimes it's not because of foolishness, but because simple and pure. At this moment, in Yin Cheng's heart, it seemed like he had come to understand something. In thriller games where death can be seen everywhere, it is too normal for people of the same kind to harm each other and deceive and exploit each other. So much so that it is almost difficult for players to establish trust relationships in the game. For the first time in the world of horror, he did not have much interaction with his peers, but instead established a trust relationship with a beautiful female ghost. The fear that ghosts and monsters have ingrained in their bones is gradually dissipating. Instead, it's like opening the door to a new world. Ghosts and monsters can also become friends. Even more cough at least from Lena, once the trust relationship is established. Yin Cheng could feel that as long as he didn't make any brainless actions, the other party is really treating themselves as reliable friends. She doesn't have the extremely complex thoughts of humans, trust is trust. Therefore, for the sake of Yin Cheng, a human friend, she can shoulder the pressure of being a Rose Earl higher than herself to maintain him. Not liking, that is, not liking, she is capable of cruelly killing a human man, such as crushing an ant. Simple and pure. Lena, believe me, let me handle it, okay? Yin Cheng's calm gaze, as if possessing some kind of magic, met Lena with an incredibly gentle gaze. Simple words quickly calmed her down. Okay. Just a simple word, but it made Yin Cheng feel that Lena's trust in him had deepened even further. As expected. At the moment of insight, Lena's friendliness towards him has increased from trust to being honest and trustworthy. Yin Cheng's mouth curved slightly upwards. His small kindness in treating Lena, as well as his identity as a fake physician, earned Lena's favor and even increased from kindness to trust. So Lena is willing to pay the price and also wants to protect him. The same. Yin Cheng did not want to see Lena suffer any damage, and his move to stop her also made Lena feel his concern. So, her trust deepened further. Simple and pure. Chapter 9. Earl's Appreciation. First Embrace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Diagnosis and Treatment Room. The atmosphere is still somewhat tense. Although Lena obeyed Yin Cheng's words, she put away the power that gradually began to rage. Her gaze towards Count Rose remained full of vigilance. On the other hand, Count Rose looked at Lena and Yin Cheng with a slightly peculiar expression, his expression very playful. You seem to have misunderstood my meaning. As an elegant nobleman, taming one's benefactor into a humanoid blood bank is not something that a true nobleman can do. However, Count Rose paused slightly, his crimson eyes flickering with a strange luster. Doctor, I wonder how you plan to treat my condition. Fatal problem. If an answer is not good, it may be the kind that needs to be answered. His blood has a deadly temptation for the Count of Roses. Putting his fingers into his mouth is enough to prove that the other person completely disregards elegance. The psychological anorexia is so unbeatable in the face of Yin Cheng's blood. Treating illness is easy. But the problem that Yin Cheng now faces is how to sustain and stage treatment. Instead of being sucked by the Count of Roses on the spot without leaving a single drop. Or, to put it another way, the other party was not satisfied with the plan he gave, so they chose to take themselves back to her castle to raise them. Although Count Rose said, she wouldn't treat Yin Cheng like a human blood bank. But losing freedom and so on is also not what Yin Cheng hopes to see. After thinking about it for a while, Yin Cheng spoke his prepared words and said, Ms. Rose, instead of saying you have anorexia, it's actually because of your aristocratic status that you have developed an extremely picky appetite. Do you mind saying that? You continue. The Earl of Rose's face changed slightly, with a feeling of being exposed to a small secret. My blood undoubtedly has enough attraction for you, and you probably won't deny it, will you? Of course. The Earl of the Rose answered without hesitation this time. Very good. Yin Cheng's face was pale, but he still maintained a smile. In my country, there is a saying called, rarity is precious. I don't know how you think about it. Rare things are precious. Interestingly, this is true most of the time. If you eat the same kind of food every day, even if it's a delicacy, there will eventually be a day when it's boring, right? The Earl of the Rose smiled and said, "Little one, you've been beating around the bush for so long, just to let me drink your blood in moderation. So that I can give you enough time to grow and then find a way to escape me." No. Yin Cheng shook his head and looked earnestly into the other person's eyes. A blood-clad ghost-level strong figure, possessing a domain is a symbol and consensus information, placed in the entire horror world, is an upstream existence, not to mention the blood race standing behind you. I am just an unlucky person who was selected by a thriller game and dragged into this bizarre world. Fortunately, I met a beautiful and gentle lady like Lena, giving me a relatively safe identity. Yin Cheng fully utilized his 3-inch eloquence. When negotiating with the Count of Roses, I didn't forget to secretly flatter Lena. Cheng's social language. I won't say anything unnecessary. I don't have the strength to survive perfectly in this world. If I can hold on to a thigh and only need to give some blood that is not deadly enough, why not do it? As for escaping. Yin Cheng smiled somewhat bitterly. Countess, do you know how much they would envy my current treatment if I were to switch to a human player? Survival or death, this is a question. I don't know how you, as ghosts and monsters, view such issues. But I choose to live, even if it means living humbly. But only by living can there be hope. Even if hope is just a spark in the dark, I am still willing to pursue it. The Earl of Rose's gaze was slightly moved. Lena's jade hand, not knowing when, gently grasped Yin Cheng's big hand. They can feel the sincerity of Yin Cheng's words and the genuine appreciation for life from the bottom of their hearts. Sorry, I made you laugh with all this emotion. Let's get to the point. Yin Cheng straightened up and said, from another perspective, I am a physician. Countess, you are my patient, you pay for medical expenses, while I am responsible for treating your illness. This is also a mutually beneficial relationship. If I could benefit a little bit from you, Countess, it would be enough for me as a new player to benefit immensely, wouldn't it? Little one, you are very smart and honest enough. Count Rose's gaze towards Yin Cheng had already changed. She saw a resilience from Yin Cheng that ordinary people do not possess. Unique resilience. This resilience happens to be the key to surviving in thriller games. So, are you willing to give it a try, follow my advice, and use my medical plan? Yin Cheng asked straightforwardly. After saying so much and revealing his true feelings, he naturally didn't want his saliva to be wasted. But the attitude of Count Rose remains at the core of the problem. Sure. Just a few simple words, it gave Yin Cheng a long sigh of relief in his heart. He could even feel that Lena, who was holding her arm, had clearly relaxed a lot. However, the Earl of the Rose changed his tone. But what? Your potential is very good. You can make a death angel trust you immensely, and you also have a survival resilience that ordinary people do not possess, so. The Count of Roses deliberately paused when he spoke. The soft and agile tongue lightly licked the corners of her mouth. In the crimson and eerie eyes, a strange expression flickered. Schwa. In the bloody realm, the figure of the Earl of the Rose disappeared into place in an instant. Yin Cheng and Lena didn't have time to react at all. The true strength of the blood-clothed demon, even though Lena has the identity of a death angel, is of no use. Yin Cheng, who was already feeling a bit dizzy and numb due to excessive blood loss. The senses have long been dull and unbearable. He just noticed a graceful figure behind him, tightly pressed against his back. The body of the Blood clan is far from as cold as that of ghosts, and even a bit moist. The next moment, Yin Cheng felt a faint warmth on his neck. He guessed that the Count of Roses had bitten him again. Just because of the characteristics of the blood race, even if bitten, as a human, he cannot detect any pain. Despite being extremely weak, being bitten not only causes no pain, but also brings an inexplicable pleasure. It made Yin Cheng feel inexplicably drained. The eve of unconsciousness. His final consciousness vaguely sensed that something seemed to be adding to his body, silently transforming it. Then, he lay down on the table and fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 10. Mingdong Third Hospital. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Within the realm of blood color. Lena looked at the Count of Roses puzzled. The other party's originally rosy face is now slightly pale. Why? Count Rose. You, who have not yet given your first embrace to anyone, why did you choose him? Lena doesn't know why she asked this question. And when asking, she still had some inexplicable feelings in her heart. You can understand it as investment, or in other words, this is the compensation I pay to the physician. The initial consumption made her somewhat weak. On the face of Count Rose, there was a satisfied smile, and his gaze fell on Yin Cheng, showing complete satisfaction. Investment. Lena could understand the latter half of the sentence. The first half of the sentence actually made her feel a bit inexplicable. Do we need to invest in a human with the strength of Count Rose? Although in Lena's view, Yin Cheng is a great physician with profound medical skills, even solving the problem of Count Rose. But that also cannot avoid the problem of Yin Cheng being just a fragile human. The Earl of the Rose first embraced the precious pure blood race and used it on a human, which seemed a bit unbelievable to Lena. Let's just take it as my intuition. I always feel that the cute little one can grow into a towering tree in the future. The Count of Roses chuckled slightly. Maybe at that time, I can cool off under the big tree, and that seems quite wonderful. As she spoke, she used her slender red fingers to gently depict a small magical formation unique to the Blood clan in the void. The magic circle flew towards Yin Cheng's arm and finally imprinted it, transforming into a seal-sized pattern. After completing this small gesture, Count Rose's gaze fell on Lena and instructed, when he wakes up, remember to tell him that through the formation on his arm, things can be teleported to my hands. As a nobleman, I am willing to follow the doctor's instructions. Let him see how long a course of medication is taken and arrange it. Also, remember what happened today and don't tell anyone. Oh, by the way. Remember to tell him, if a course of medication doesn't make me feel enough. Hee hee. Lena was momentarily stunned as she watched the Earl of Roses, who had put away her territory and left with a coquettish smile. It seems a bit unexpected. Count Rose, who had killed several doctors at the third hospital and was kept away by other ghosts and even feared by her. Surprisingly, he would show such a posture. The domain has disappeared. Consultation room. Wearing glasses, the director's eyes sparkled as he looked no different from ordinary people. The other dozen or so physicians also became slightly restless. They breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts, secretly grateful that Lena had brought in a specially hired physician. This allowed one of the unlucky ones who should have appeared among them to survive. As for curing Count Rose's illness, they have never considered such a problem at all. Suddenly, the director let out a deep thought and his face became somewhat gloomy. Have you heard the laughter of the Count of Roses? Ha! The rough werewolf physician paused for a moment, his face stiffening slightly. I think I heard it, but he hasn't finished speaking yet. Bang! The door, under the invasion of a bloody force, instantly exploded into a pile of debris. Whoosh! Whoosh! The director's face looked as if he had eaten ollies. When he saw the figure outside the door, the dozen or so physicians he was in charge of. Unexpectedly, they all huddled neatly behind his back. Let him face the terrifying existence of Count Rose alone. The new doctor is very good, I really appreciate it. No one expected that the Count of Roses would come and leave after leaving such a sentence. After a while, the doctors in the consultation room finally regained their composure, and their eyes turned into unbelievable expressions. It seems to be saying, how on earth did human physicians achieve this? No one noticed, but deep in the director's eyes, an unprecedented shadow appeared. At the entrance of the third hospital, the dark clouds carried the elegant lady away. A scene that can occur in front of the consultation room and be seen by a large group of ghosts and monsters. After Count Rose left, it completely ignited the atmosphere of the third hospital. Unbelievable. How could the Count of the Rose not have killed that human physician? Masaka. Her mysterious illness has actually been cured by humans. Oh shit. I've invested all my money in the Dice Ghosts bet. Fuck. I'm going to give birth to that human. Oh, it's time for the popular gambling dog jumping off a building segment. Laugh to death, kill that human. The guy praised by the Count of the Rose, don't you think it's just a simple compliment? Isn't it? It's not. Wait, even Count Rose's illness has been cured by that human. Does that prove that guy's medical skills are really strong? Watson, you found a blind spot, . There are ghosts in joy and ghosts in sorrow. In the eyes of the vast majority of ghosts and monsters, the matter of the Count of Roses is nothing more than eating melons. But in the eyes of these ghosts who happen to need treatment, it's a bit completely different. They each have some big or small problems, and the doctors at the third hospital cannot completely and perfectly solve their problems. Otherwise, they wouldn't have become repeat customers. For a while, the atmosphere at the third hospital has quieted down again. Ghosts, you look at me, I look at you, and my eyes gradually become eager. Even the chainsaw maniac who had lost everything due to Yin Cheng fell silent, and even secretly touched Yin Cheng's consultation room while everyone was not paying attention. He also has some unresolved root causes. The identity of human plus specially appointed physician. Yin Cheng's consultation room does not require registration. This leads to the consultation room. A group of stubborn and difficult-to-solve ghosts fought fiercely in order to seize the opportunity to be diagnosed first. In the corner, a few trembling human female players with missing arms and legs opened their mouths in an O shape. The pain caused by physical disability is temporarily overshadowed by surprise and shock. It's hard for them to imagine. Why is there such a big gap between humans? They carefully take care of the patients in the first ward, fearing that they may have done something wrong. As a result, he was caught with various minor ailments and cruelly consumed a part of his body by the ghosts and monsters. On the other hand, Yin Cheng seemed to have become a hot topic in the third hospital because he had cured a powerful monster's illness. Even ghosts and monsters are vying for it, why worry about any safety issues? The sense of disparity brought about by different situations not only made them jealous, but also gave rise to some additional thoughts in their hearts.